All right, so this first one we're talking about is market manipulation.
All right. Now, this is a pet peeve. So I've got a list of them. People know me. This is a pet peeve. And I'm going to give you opinion here, a lot more than I'm going to give you hard, cold facts. And then you can comment to some of this. In today's world, everybody pays attention to the stock market much more, heavily pay attention to it, I would say, than 15, 20 years ago. And part of that reason is the 401k pay plans and the savings plans have really become a big issue for people over that period of time. The issue really here is that I've invested in stocks a lot of my life. And I don't, sit around and try to study them. I have people that do that. I'm not smart enough. I think that's something that you have to really keep up with. In the stock market, you have really two levels of, investor. You have the institutional investor. And what do I mean by the institutional investor? Those are the hedge funds, the big banks, the sovereign wealth funds that invest in big numbers in the U.S. stock market because it's deemed to be a safe place to put your money. Then you have a much smaller percentage, the retail guy. That's me, that's you. That's all your 401k people that are out there. That's the retail sector, okay? And that is about 15% of the market. The institutional side is about 85% of the market. So I talked to some friends over the last couple of days thinking about this story that are in the stock market business. And I said, what would you say if I told you that I believe that the big hedge funds are manipulating the stock market? They said to me, well, Frank, what do you mean? And I said, well, when bad news comes out, the market goes down 500-600 points. Bad jobs report, bad this, bad that. And the market goes down. And then 2 days later, the market's up from where it was before that, like the bad news was completely wiped out. And I said, the problem that I have is the hedge funds and the big institutional people, they want volatility. That is a given. I'm going to go a little bit over. They want volatility, okay? The volatility creates the ability to arbitrage. Now, what an arbitrage is you play in the middle. You buy a stock and then you buy puts on that stock, or you collar that stock, and you're trying to make a spread in the middle. You're dealing with so much money on the institutional side. The average investor, who's the average guy, doesn't do that. But these massive swings really bother me because it just gives me the opinion that the market is being manipulated by this arbitrage. Again, I don't have hardcore facts, but I know that I've talked to enough people. We've heard from people on the show, what about my stock market account? What about my 401k? And it's really hard to explain, Sarah.
I know, I agree. And I think that, I would have to agree with you. That's why this SEC even exists, is to try and regulate the market, or at least regulate people who are...
Yes, but this arbitrage situation is not, it's not illegal.
Yeah.
They're doing what the market is allowing them to do. There's been discussion about these big hedge funds. Are they manipulating the market, and should we pass legislation to not let that happen? But nobody's ever done anything about it.
Do you think we should pass legislation?
I don't know, because I'm a free market guy.
Yeah.
It bothers me when I see these things. I'll give you an example. The S&P is a big index in the stock market. It's trading at 23 times earnings. This thing is overheated. 23 times earnings is rich, rich, rich.
Yep.
And so people always, I get a lot of people that say, well, what should I do with my 401k? I tell them, talk to your advisor. They know a lot more than I know.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is that there's just something about this that bugs me. So we'll keep an eye. I think the market is really, really good right now in an economy that's not that good. And so you wonder, is this the last bastion where people have said, the U.S. stock market is really the only place I can put this money?
Right.
There's no place for me to put it. I don't know.
Well, I don't have an opposing view on that, so I just want more. That needs to be an unplugged.
But it's something to kind of pay attention to and look at.
Absolutely.
So.
All right. Well, the second subject we're talking about is the Ahmaud Arbery trial.
Yeah, and I'm going to let you handle this one from the top, but this doesn't get anywhere near the publicity that it needs to get. This was an awful scenario. This kid's jogging. He's a former high school football star. He's jogging in this neighborhood, and he gets shot by these two country bumpkins that are now saying, well, they took the civil defense in their own hands, or whatever the hell their argument is. It's a bunch of BS.
So, so this is my problem with a lot of stories like this. And I'm not specifically talking about this story, but to me, a lot of people jump on the bandwagon before finding out all the facts. I mean, people did it with George Floyd, people did it with Breonna Taylor. I mean, people are hopping on and making snap judgments before the security camera footage comes out, before the police cam footage, before finding out that George Floyd had enough fentanyl in him to kill a horse. Like before, and I'm not, again, I'm not defending.
But did he deserve to be killed?
Of course not.
Okay.
Of course not. And I'm not defending the police officer, but in that county, the knee on the neck is an appropriate action.
Big problem.
Which is a huge problem. And I'm not defending that police officer. He should.
Jury didn't see it that way.
Right. And I'm not defending that in any way, shape, or form. George Floyd should not have died. That should not have happened. And I'm not defending that, but people make snap decisions before all the information is out. Technically, Georgia is a stand your ground state, which means that if you, and I'm going to say this correctly here, you can use deadly force to defend yourself if your property or other people, if you believe it's necessary to prevent death, bodily injury, or a felony.
Here's where that argument falls apart, in my opinion.
Well, they said that
the guy's jogging on the street.
Well, they said that they saw him breaking into a home.
No. They said he looked like someone that they thought was breaking into a home.
And
he resembled somebody.
Again,
now, do you know how racist that is? Let's start right there.
Of course, and of course. But I'm saying they believed him to be possibly committing a felony.
So now they shoot him 3 times when the guy's unarmed?
Again, I'm not defending what they did, but I'm saying you have to understand that side of things too, because also the facts haven't all come out yet about this case. I mean, we're going to learn them in trial. You know, a lot of the footage doesn't come out in these cases until the very end. And again, these men made false statements. They have racist texts. And again, I'm not defending these men by any way, shape, or form.
It took 2 months to arrest these people.
Right. But I am just saying, in general, a lot of these cases, you have to wait to make snap judgments.
I would say in general, but I think there's enough information out on this case. This is a terrible situation that a young kid jogging got shot 3 times. He's unarmed. He's not attacking you. Their argument is he looks like somebody that was breaking into homes.
Right.
That is not going to stand up.
I agree.
It's
and
100% these 3 guys are going to be convicted. That's my prediction. I don't think there's any other way to look at it.
I agree, and I agree that they should be convicted. But I just do want to say that other side of things. But again, this specific case, in my opinion, they should be convicted.
And for the record, Mr. Arbury had he was on 5 years of probation for carrying a weapon when he was younger. But at the time of his death, the autopsy, he had no drugs and no alcohol in his system. He was jogging.
And he was unarmed.
He was jogging. All right.
All right. Well, moving on, we are talking about the Afghan task force. And the question here is, what should we be doing?
Well, you're big on this one. So why don't you lead off? You're big on this one.
Okay, so and I've spoken about this a number of times. I've spoken to a former Navy SEAL who was in Afghanistan, served his time in Afghanistan, and is here in America now, trying to help some of our allies and Americans come back over to America safely, or even just get out of the country safely. Right. So it's called Task Force Pineapple, because at the time, pineapple was what you had to say to know that you were in a safe area. So you had to literally go up to the trap door, the booby door. It was. Now I'm sure they change it like daily or whatever it is. But that's how they kind of got the name Pineapple Express, or that's how they started Task Force Pineapple. It's a series of essential virtual help right now that they are reaching out to everyone they can, trying to work on their virtual network and get people somewhere safely out of the country.
Is it your opinion that these military, ex-military, and these ex-government people who are doing unbelievable work, are getting any help from the United States government.
No.
What are you finding out about that?
No, they are doing it completely on their own. And that's not to say that the Biden administration isn't maybe doing something on their own, but these are completely separate from the Biden administration. They're not getting federal funding. They're not getting, federal help in a lot of these situations, because I know that there are multiple task forces, but I think it's completely on their own because they know what it was like to be over there. They know what it was like to serve their country, and they know what it's like to work with allies who promise that they will be taken care of after they help Americans, after they help
they're
their
taught
people.
leave no one behind.
Leave no one behind.
Yeah, and here's my problem. It's real simple. This was a blunder beyond blunders.
Mm-hmm.
This is another self-created issue by the Biden administration. And the bottom line is that this really has got a lot to do with why he's not as popular in the United States.
Perfect timing there. Look at us go.
That's pretty good, huh?
That is pretty good.
Yeah, I was counting with my foot.
Okay. Well, that's why then. All right. So now we're talking Brian Laundrie. Human remains.
All right, I got a problem.
Human remains were found.
No, they're his remains. I'm an astronaut going up on the next space shuttle. If this is not him. Yeah,
okay.
I mean, this is 100%. Let me go through a few statistics. This one really bothers me. Again, I got a lot that bothers me today.
Murder bothers you.
Well, no, but it's the cover up by his parents. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff. I'm just going to start on September the 1st. Brian Laundrie returned in a van to Florida. Petito is not with him. Okay? That should sum up the whole thing, but it doesn't stop there.
Flag 1.
He goes out, and then he comes back, and he's got her van, but he doesn't have her.
And her credit card.
On September the 4th, he buys a new cell phone. His attorney, Steve Butalino, I believe that's his name. He's Italian. I ought to like him, but I don't like him. I think he's completely full of you-know-what. Disputes reports that it was so-called a burner phone. Now, they're using that term, a burner phone. Well, so in other words, he just wanted another cell phone just because he wanted one. On September the 6th to the September the 8th, this is unbelievable statistic. The Laundrie family goes camping.
Randomly.
They go camping. No Gabby Petito. It's got the van. They decide to go camping.
After he just comes back from a camping trip for the summer.
I mean, I can't believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that, everybody. September 11th, Petito's mother reports her missing. Okay? The parents now have finally caught on. There's something really wrong here, man. This is bad news. Authorities then get her van. They take the van. They use the van to try to get as much information as they can get. On September 17th, the parents, Brian Laundrie's parents, claim he is now missing. On the 17th, they say that they haven't seen or spoken to him since September 14th, which this Butalino guy, I don't know if I'm saying his name properly, then says, no, it was actually a day before that. So they correct even the time. The buzzer's off, but here's the bottom line. This thing smells. It's terrible. And Sarah, this falls in the category again. By virtue of the fact that this guy's remains are now being found, and these are his remains, this doesn't help the Gabby Petito family. This doesn't bring closure to anything, does it?
No, because in theory, there's no one to convict then. There's no one to hold responsible for it then. And I feel like everything in this case just keeps getting weirder.
Well, I think that there is real cause for an investigation on did the parents aid and abet the situation after their son comes home by himself. I mean, how would they not know? Don't they ask, where's your girlfriend?
You would think. Well, also, I have a question. Why did it take Petito's parents until September 11th to report her missing?
Who knows what they were being told?
Yeah.
You know? Who knows what they're being told? Well,
Right.
she wanted to stay out there. We got in a fight and she found a new boyfriend. I mean, who knows?
Right.
Who knows? But I think that justice should be served here. and it should be served on the parents. I think that there needs to be, at a minimum, an investigation on the parents to find out what did they know and when did they know.
Well, because also the parents were the ones who led law enforcement to the missing items.
You know, the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It smells fishy. All right, our last subject, the National Guard and the supply chain. So we've talked a number of times about the supply chain issues that the country is seeing. We talked about the ports being open. Frank, do you think, so the background here is that the government has not ruled out bringing in the National Guard. They're keeping everything on the table. Do you think the National Guard would be a viable option to helping the supply chain?
It's an option. It's a better option than doing nothing. Mm-hmm. And to me, they should have discussed this option months ago.
Yep.
You know, can the National Guard help in the unloading of these ships? The answer is yes. Yeah. Can they drive trucks? I think the answer is probably yes.
Yep.
And can this get us through this phase until we make more longer term? I think it's actually a pretty good idea. Mm-hmm. The problem is that CNN is suggesting that the Biden administration probably is not going to do this.
Right.
That's what I read this morning.
Yep.
And they have pretty good sources as it relates into the Biden administration. If they're not going to do this, what are they going to do?
Right. What is the other answer? What is the alternative?
Well, or multiplicity of answers.
Yep.
But they talked about a task force, Sarah, and they said they put a task force in place 3-4 months ago. Could somebody hold a press conference and tell us what are the recommendations of the task force?
Well, they haven't. It seems like they haven't really been doing anything with this task force. It was created months ago when the supply chain issue was already an issue, but it hadn't expanded this badly, and right. They haven't had any kind of action. They've repeatedly said that they're studying the situation and learning about the situation.
Yeah.
Well, it's time now to act.
Well. And explain to the viewers, you know, what the inflationary risks here are and going to the store. I mean, you're in the store all the time.
Yeah, so what you're running into is, and again, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, but the issue is that e-commerce went up when COVID hit. Factories overseas were shut down. So once everything opened back up, everything was finally able to function again. These boats are coming over from Shanghai. They're coming to the ports, and the ports are completely overwhelmed. And the issue is that the Biden administration brokered a deal to basically make these ports open 24/7.
Which I thought was a good idea.
Which in theory is a good idea, but I'll finish this thought real quick. But unfortunately, all of these ports, all of these warehouses have people who are union-based. And union-based workers, first off, they're going to make far more than the normal hourly wage. And they are going to be making time and a half overnight, and they're going to make bonuses overnight. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but that costs money. So where does that money come from? It's going to come from the pocketbook of the consumer. So basically, anything you're doing, let's say you're unloading a bike and you're working on bikes, that bike is now going to cost $300 instead of $100 because they need to pay the wages of these people who are working overtime.
Yeah. And it always gets passed on to the consumer.
Exactly. And just because Biden brokered this deal does not mean that there's any federal funding going into it.
No, I understand. And no, I don't think there should be. We got enough federal funding.
Right.
Our deficits are big enough.
Right. But these warehouses, they're going to have to make money somehow.
Yeah.
So.
All right.